one of my law firms. He's been with me he's about to have his 4-year anniversary. But when he came to me, he had a doo-doo website. It was him and one other attorney and an office manager, and they were kind of just starting. 4 years now, he's about to break 200 million in case results. And those are the small ones. And then he also has a $400 million case that he had against the University of Michigan. Now he's got 9 other attorneys, himself, a brand new office building, all of this really just incredible growth. But he was one of the people that I asked. I'm like, all right, man, like, you're my golden calf. You're my lighthouse. When I show people kind of what we do, you're the example I use most often. What would you attribute most of this to? And his thing with me was like, I don't want to say everything has worked, but enough of it has worked where I have just kind of focused on growing. I know that if I'm giving you, this amount of money, I can expect this much back. It kind of like a reliable ROI. I could project my growth out. Kind of just felt like, okay, I can let my foot off the gas here, let Paul's team kind of run with it, and I can focus on building my business. And he said that was why we grew.
Our guest today is a U.S. Army veteran serving in Iraq from 2003 to 2004, where he learned the true meaning of discipline and working for the good of a team. He was instrumental in growing a social media management company into an Inc. 500 fastest growing company as one of their first hires by building their operational systems and processes that increased revenue by over $2 million in 2 years. He has also worked with dozens of small businesses, many more than that now, to improve their e-brand and increase the revenue generated from their review sites and also their social media profiles. Welcome back to the show, founder and CEO of #Smart Business Consulting, Paul Mackiewicz.
Hey, Mike, good to see you again, man. Really good to see you.
Good to see you. A little Buffalo connection back on the show here. Thank you for your service. I always like to start with that. And also thank you for your time and coming back on the show.
For sure. Go Bills.
Go Bills. So your website is honorable.marketing, and that is in the show notes. So if anybody, while you're listening to this, or if you're at home and you're kind of like working in the background, whatever, you could check out the site while you're listening to Paul's story and what we're going to cover today. But if you want to come back to it at the end, realize I have everything clickable in the show notes, including his social media. So you don't have to worry about typing that out at all. Just go there, click on it. And today, what we're going to do a little bit different. This is going to be a little bit more of a workshop. I'm obviously interviewing Paul to get some of his story. And usually with entrepreneurs on the show, I really dig deep into their story, their why, understand how they got into entrepreneurship and what they're doing today, and really as more inspirational content. Today's going to be a little bit more topical on marketing, in particular, top marketing strategies for small business. It's great timing, Paul, to have you back on the show. And something for our first-time listeners who maybe haven't seen you yet, go back to the first episode if you want Paul's backstory. But in the setup, you guys might have heard something I mentioned there. Inc. 500, fastest-growing company. Paul is a big part of that. You were one of the first hires with that company. You built the operational, the systems, the processes, right? And you increased revenue by over $2 million. So you're a big part of that. Can you share, first of all, like just to get this thing kicked off, share a little bit of the blueprint, the operations and systems, and what you felt led to your high level of success?
Yeah, I'm certainly a systems-oriented guy. I like when I look at something, having a goal, having an outcome that we're looking at, and then figuring out the steps that we do it. Even we use Monday.com for our project management here, and when we're building a new pulse or a new item that we want to focus on, it's always the goal. That's what the pulse is the goal, and then you can create sub steps to it. But that was kind of one of the big things when I got into this company. I mean, they were smiling and dialing, cold calling like crazy, but they didn't really have a CRM. They didn't have a system for nurturing leads. They didn't have a system for making sure that they were following up on things. It was kind of left to each salesperson. And when I get there,
Right.
I'm a big advocate of finding low hanging fruit. Whether it's SEO or it's social media or it's website design. I mean, there's always low hanging fruit, some actions you could take early that are really
Right.
going to just exponentially grow everything else that you're doing. In their case, I was coming in and seeing that we just really didn't have a system around our sales. And, what can I do to implement to that will just, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, still be able to be working in the same way and moving us along. So that was definitely step
Where
one.
did you learn that? I mean, obviously you have your Army background, which is going to be discipline, systems, regiment, sticking to it. But did you, you had a little bit of sales background before that, right? Coming in. So you knew basically like the life of a lead and how you have to nurture, from cold prospect to warm prospect to obviously closing the deal, follow up the whole system.
Yeah, certainly. It's I mean, back in the first show we talked about my kind of like very meandering career path where, I ran businesses for people. I opened up my own scooter rental company. And
Yeah.
even in that,
Selling golf equipment at one point,
selling
wasn't it?
golf equipment for Dick's Sporting Goods. I was a golf pro for a few years. Um really all of that. And I got to thank God for this too, because it's just at the time those things feel very frustrating, right? You're like, oh, why can't I like find my thing? Why can't I like stick in something that I feel personally rewarded, and I also feel like I'm positively impacting the world around me and my community, and building relationship and things like that. When you're kind of bouncing around as much as I did find that I always had this feeling of, I got these broad shoulders, I can carry the weight of the world on them. I could figure it out. I could figure it out. And that's basically something I talk to with my team a lot, is like
Mhm.
empowering them to say like, guys, you're smart. I didn't hire you, if I didn't think that you were capable of doing this. But one of my big
Yeah.
asks of everyone on my team is, you are accountable for your entire department. So you have to problem solve. You have to think forward on it. You have to think about steps and along those lines. And I think a lot of it probably came from my first business venture of the scooter rental company, because I ran that entire company off Google Sheets, like a Google form, which went to Google
Right.
Sheets, which built a PDF, which emailed to the client and activated a GPS tracker. And it was like, if I didn't sit down one day and just like map it all out, it would have
Yeah.
been a complete mess. So
How would you have gotten to the end result, right?
yeah,
I like what you just said there too, of having your team have that responsibility, because I think a lot of times leadership teams they feel that you know the leadership can only come from them, or the great big idea can only come from them, or implementing that can come from them, where you're like, hey, I have you on the team, there's a reason you're here, you're the right person for your role, I need a little bit of leadership in you taking this on and making sure we're doing the right thing. And then if there's ever a need, come to me. If you need something, I'm here. I'm not an absentee owner, but I also want to see some accountability at all levels, right? And I think that's a really great way to lead. And I'm sure I know where you got some of that from too. Can you talk a little bit about honorable marketing? I mean, obviously, it doesn't take a brainiac to figure out where that name maybe came from. And if you're watching on YouTube right now and not listening to this on Apple or Spotify, which we thank you for being with us, wherever you're tuning in, he's got the seal right behind him, the United States seal. Some of it's cut off from my view, but what does it say on the bottom? Is
yeah,
that
it's
Army
US.
underneath you
That's the
there?
U.S. Army flag with
U.S.
the Army
Army.
seal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So he's got the U.S. Army flag behind him, and Honorable Marketing is the name of your company. So share a little bit about how that was really, your purpose. It led you into this new venture not that long ago.
Yeah, well, when I started this company, I was the COO of a different digital advertising company. I had come up with the Inc. 500, a fastest growing company. Being an early hire with them, and kind of working through that growth. At one point here, and this probably is one of those cautionary tales. I had a guy. He was a an employee of the company. He had a client who said, "You know what? I think I could start a digital marketing company." And this guy came to me and said, like, he's asking me to come over and run sales, but they need a COO, somebody that kind of understands systems and operations and how to make this happen. And I said, well, you got to throw a lot of money at me. And they did. They threw a lot of money at me. And so I jumped. I jumped ship. In retrospect, it was not the greatest decision, because 9 months later, suddenly checks started bouncing, and we found out that
Oh
the
my god.
financial backer of the company just got thrown in prison for 25 years.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
some real nasty stuff that he did.
Whoa.
Yeah, and
That's pretty serious time. I mean, I'm sure
I
whatever it was not a couple $1,000s worth
no,
of missing money. Yeah.
it was honestly probably like the hardest time in my life. I had a panic attack at that time, which I'd never had in my life. I honestly haven't had one since.
How old were you at the time?
It was like 5, 6 years ago, so it's been 30,
Okay. So
34,
you were
35.
married with kids at that point?
No, Just I believe
No, okay.
engaged. Yeah, I was engaged leading
Yeah,
up
yeah.
to getting married.
But your life was, I mean, your life was getting put together there, and so financial responsibility was coming your way, and then you get hit with this situation.
Yeah, and I also had, 12 employees at this company that are looking at me saying like, "So what's going on? What's happening?"
We're doing. Mhm.
And I had a little bit of a Jerry Maguire moment where I was like, "Well, I guess, these two clients that I just signed, I'm just going to change the contract. I'm going to go start my own company because this guy obviously, isn't going to be running this company anymore. I have no idea what to tell these
Right.
people." And I took one of my guys, who he's still my chief production officer to this day, Christian. I call him my Renee Zellweger because it was kind of like my. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
leaving. Who's coming with me? Like who? And it
Right.
was literally me and him sitting on my couch in my apartment in West Hollywood, going, "All right, well, we've got two clients.
Now
What
what?
do we do now?
Yeah.
Who are we? Like, what is the company?" And when I lived in Miami, I had a little side hustle where I would go in and set people's like Google Homes or Alexas up, with the lights and with this, and so it was like smart. Um, so I had an LLC that was hashtag smart. And I was like, well, I already got the LLC. So let's just switch some things around. Boom. Made some quick moves and repurposed that business entity into our marketing company. And so we kind of just hit the ground running, and I started selling. He started working on like the production. I was building the websites and selling. He was doing kind of the reputation management, business listing, social.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I
It's a good two-headed monster to start some basic stuff for your marketing. Make sure.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of businesses I still see that don't have like their Google business set up, like my business. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like they
it's
don't even either access their Google account, or it's crazy, man. 2024 rolling around, or we're in 2024 as you're listening to this. So talk about that. What are some staples you absolutely need to have? You started a business. I got Mike's Donut Shop. All right. And so that's obviously, let's say I have a physical store you walk into. And what are like the first four things I need to set up for from a digital standpoint?
yeah. I would say I always like to put one even before that, which is truly understanding who you are as a business and the value that you provide, and your core offering, and two, your bigger offering, your unique selling proposition. What is special about you?
Market dominating. I just went to a great business retreat. Shout out to Todd Saylor. Market dominating position. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that, I mean, I work with mostly lawyers and doctors. That's they tend to like the fact that military veteran,
Yeah,
no
let's say
bullshit,
I'm
but
a lawyer,
yeah.
That's my
And
office,
so
right?
first it's sitting down with them and really getting them to understand who they are. Like, identify your key
Mhm.
practice areas. Let's find the subcategories. Why are you better than the guy down the street? If you're brand new, then it's youth and energy. If you're, established, then you could point to like the big cases that you've won in the past, or maybe you like going to court, whereas a lot of lawyers don't like going to court. You can emphasize things like that. But getting them to understand that first and foremost is it's crazy to me, because it's a step that for some reason so many people in those professional spaces never take. They get out of law school, they get out of med school, they start a business, and then they're suddenly like, okay, I like doing the thing, I like practicing law, I like helping people, with their medical conditions, but they've never actually sat down and like thought about who they are. So a lot of it is a little bit of hand holding. Sometimes I say it's more of like a shove in their back, because they, 8 years of school, and they never took a marketing class. So getting their mindset wrapped around that first and foremost is huge.
Yeah.
Next, I
They're great at what they do, but they're not great at necessarily positioning themselves from a marketing and branding
yeah,
standpoint.
and they've
So,
never thought of it, and it's like it's not their fault,
yeah,
right? Like,
right.
if you're not taught something, how are you going to know to do it? So building that out, I would say today that there is one step I'm going to slide in here that I wouldn't have 6 months, a year ago, which is uh, building out a comprehensive profile of your business in an AI program like ChatGPT. No, I'm actually.
I've been using a lot of AI too with podcasting, and it's been
Oh
great.
yeah,
It's a great combination of my team. I have a smaller team than you, a little bit smaller than you, but we're all using it in some regard. But there's still the human element connected to it
yeah.
right now.
It's been a focus of a lot of our company meetings, which is, I go to my content team and I say, tell me the top three ways which you're utilizing AI. I go to my production guys and I say, what are the top three things you're doing to utilize AI? Because why would you not use this amazing tool? So I would say that would be one of the early things I do is go in, and there's this amazing, I mean, there's prompts everywhere that you can look up online, or I provide clients, and in this course that I teach about AI driven marketing mastery
Yeah.
for office managers, just kind of empowering some of the people within medical and legal professionals practices to kind of like understand this stuff a little bit. You just tell it, hey, I'm going to have you write SEO content and business descriptions and customer profiles and case results and social media posts. And I want you to ask me the top 30 questions that will help you to accomplish this task in the most efficient and uh, complete manner. And then the AI will ask you all those questions. You just go through and you answer them all, right? And again, this is something that a lawyer probably never did, right? You went, oh, I need a logo, I need a website, and like slap some stuff up there. Then it's like, okay, where are the clients, right? Um, but now when you build out this like comprehensive, amazing employee that is just waiting in the wings for whenever you need to type at it, or if you're like me, I do dictation for so much. So Windows H, open up that dictation, you just tell it what you want, and boom, now it starts pumping this stuff out. I utilize it a lot to brainstorm. Like, hey, give me 10 different unique value propositions based off the information that you know about this company. Boom, like and it helps you not only from like a functional standpoint, but also from the psychology, like breaking your brain a little bit on what makes me special. How do I think differently than everybody else? Because if you're doing the same shit as everybody else, you're gonna get the same results. And now
Right.
you're just another voice out there.
Well, the thing about AI that I like, is like humans, I mean, we make errors, right? And we're not always thinking soundly. Like we have emotions, we have family, we have business dynamics, stress, all this stuff. So we're not always thinking 100% clearly about everything. And so if we have all this information we can share with AI, it's basically just a database. And then you start pulling from it, and it's not going to forget something because it's in a mood. Like, oh my God, I knew that. Like that was the one idea I wanted to get to, but it's not coming to me right now. I know well, it'll come back in the next meeting. Then the next meeting, someone's sick, and all of a sudden, boom, you're not where your headspace is. AI doesn't do that. It's like you ask it for a particular thing, it's going to give you all 12 ideas that you originally wanted to have, and it's going to be right there. And then you can obviously adjust them, ask them to spit it out in a different way, ask it to reformat it. You know, I use the Monica plugin through Google Chrome. Have you ever used that? That thing's pretty
I haven't.
crazy.
I saw
Yeah.
somebody breaking it down on like TikTok or Instagram at some point. It looks pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It has like 12 different settings on it. And I don't know how it's different from Chat GPT. I'm not that advanced as far as knowing the technology, like how in particular it's different. But I use it all the time for rewrites or just
Mhm.
ideas. Sometimes I'll write something and it seems a little clunky, and then I can ask it to give it back to me in a funny tone, serious tone, playful tone. Write it as a Twitter post, and then it takes your idea and it just in 5 seconds or less
Yeah.
has it
Yeah.
reformatted. So that's what I'm talking about when people are listening right now. If you're like, there's still some people I talk to, I'm sure you do too, that are kind of anti AI because they're afraid of what it could mean down the road. And I get it. But I feel like if you're not using it, it's like you're getting to work every day on a bicycle when everyone else has a
Mhm.
car. Forget about busy traffic cities where sometimes a bike actually gets you there quicker. But my point is, you're using older technology when you can get here using a vehicle. Like, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, and
So
but it also it if you're utilizing it right, you can play into that psychological side and really like getting your tone right and even things like that. So one of the questions I ask a lot of our professionals is, if you could be any celebrity online, who would you be? Do you have any favorite authors? Do you have any favorite journalists? Things like that. Because like I like Mark Manson. He wrote the book The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He's written the autobiography for like Will Smith and everything. I really like how he writes. It's very direct, but it's also conversational, a little bit funny, a little bit blunt. But it comes across very easily as like how I sound, how I feel like I sound at least, right? And so sometimes say I have an idea for a social media video that I want to make. I can just ask ChatGPT, hey, I want to do a social media post about how AI is impacting lawyers who are using it to look up past case results as opposed to doing the actual legwork and going into Lawlytics and figuring it out themselves. But I want you to write this in the voice and tone of Mark Manson. And then suddenly it's coming out with like all right, folks, we got to get down to the business about that. And yeah, so it really kind of matches this thing. Then I could take that, throw it up onto a program like say BigVoo, which is a teleprompter, stand back
Hmm.
here, read something instead of me having to like come up with
And there
everything
it
right off the
is.
top of my mind. Or I could set up
Yeah.
just bullet points through a teleprompter. So I just make sure that I hit all the things that I want to hit. And I just kind of guided it in a direction. And suddenly I've got a 3-minute social media video just ready to rock. And
Yeah.
once all that,
And that's important, guys. Realize what Paul just said is that it's still in his business's tone.
Mhm.
And you can program that to be in the tone, style, feel that you want. So AI doesn't have any feelings, but you can tell it basically how to be someone that you want that voice in your organization to solve for
yeah,
it. And it can do that, which is
I've
like
gotten a lot
really
of
high
them.
level stuff.
Probably one of my favorites is
Yeah.
Paul Rudd. I have one attorney. He's like, yeah, I kind of like,
Yeah.
he's a handsome but not too handsome. He's kind of quirky, kind of reserved, kind of humble, but also you could
Yeah.
tell that he's just one of the super likable
But it's a
people.
personality fit.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I could say like, awesome, write this social media post in the way that Paul Rudd would say this. Include all relevant hashtags for da 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 da. And boom, now I've got
Yeah.
it's in a tone that this law firm appreciates, right? Or another thing that I write often is like, write this as inspirational and educational as the focus, and let's not be salesy. Because a lot of the times AI, like it knows that you're selling, it wants to be like salesy about it, right? So
Yeah.
once you kind of figure some of
But
these
isn't
stuff
that funny though? Because if you gave that to an actual person on your team, typically that's kind of the thing that we have to be softer about. Like, okay, this is a little bit, we got to be more creative in how we're going to be salesy or the branding side of it, not just buy from me. Here's my link. Like, it's got to have a little bit more to it than that. Okay. But that's funny that, you know, Chat GPT or AI is doing that too, because a lot of times that's what we do.
well, I
We
mean,
try to
it's trained by humans.
oversell without. Yeah, it's trained by humans, exactly. But yeah, you got to get to the value proposition. So um, I know this is a general question, but getting back to kind of the core of what I wanted to talk about today, the emerging marketing trends of 2024. Um, that is so vague, right? So can you kind of hit on? We just talked about AI. Is there anything else that that you see trending in a direction that may be more popular, or something that I say you, all the entrepreneurs and business owners tuning in, that you and your team need to be thinking about?
Yeah, I think a few of the other really big ones. One is voice search. Voice search continues to grow
Yeah,
constantly. So with that, Apple Maps finally released their own review management platform and also their own data input service. So a lot of people haven't done it yet because Apple hasn't really been super loud about it. But before they
right.
had the contract with Yelp, so whatever data you put on Yelp, if somebody asks Siri for find me a lawyer in the area, that information was coming from generally Yelp, but also a few other data sources like Bing Maps. It would kind of piggyback off of. But now that they're releasing their own thing, you can go right onto Apple Maps, build out your business profile. Which again, ChatGPT is very good for building up business profiles once you train it up.
So is it kind of like Google My Business, but the Apple
Yep,
version?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
so that again like hasn't been a big rollout, but that's going to become very important in 2024. You're talking about right about 20% of search is through Apple
yeah.
Maps, Siri. So not the big one that Google is, but certainly significant. Another one I would say to really be paying a lot of attention to is longer form keyword search. So one of the big
Okay.
trends that we're seeing across really all search platforms is people aren't saying like personal injury attorney in Buffalo, New York. People are saying like who is the best attorney for animal attack. And so it's much more long form and it's much more questions. So on a lot of the websites that we do, we'll do much more comprehensive, large FAQ sections because you can imagine if somebody's asking a question on a search engine and that exact question is in an FAQ on your website, Google might reward you with the snippet, which the
Yeah.
snippet is anybody that doesn't know that if you ask a question to Google and that little thing pops up and now it has the AI, so like the bar to answer, and then underneath it there's the
Mhm.
question and a little downward carrot, and you can kind of go through those. Those are all snippets from websites. So if you
So what you need to be thinking about then is not what you do and tell people what you do. It's what would somebody ask to get to my services? You have to
Mhm.
rewire your brain right here.
Yep.
All right, what question is somebody going to ask on Google, on Siri, on Alexa, whatever platform? What is that question that we want to be that first search result? So it's just a different way. You're still going to be using all your common hashtags and
Mhm.
everything, building out your SEO. But I love what you just said there, to actually have, whether it's blogs or FAQs, right, that are just going to be really SEO rich on your website.
Mhm. I would say,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and one,
I mean, it sounds simple, but like not a lot of people would think of it that way.
no, yeah, what you really want to do. I mean, there's no such thing as like gaming Google's system. No matter how hard you try, they're going to change the algorithm. They're going to adapt here. They're going to,
Yeah.
and the direction that they constantly keep going to, and all search engines do this, is end of the day satisfying a search query in a way that satisfies the searcher. Right? It's building a user experience. When they get to your
Right.
website, can they find the information that they want? Can they contact you? Can they, visit multiple pages in order to have like a full experience here, as opposed to, some of these doo-doo sites that you see out there, which are, kind of load up back end, say SEO content, but a lot of times like that SEO content is just old, it's outdated. Google's already indexed it 6 years ago, and now like they just don't see much authority in it, because what's Google going to reward, right? An article written about the same topic from 2 weeks ago, or an article from 6 years ago. So
Right.
just think about exactly, what Google's function is to satisfy search queries in the best possible way they can, and then do that thing. Build a great experience, answer the most common questions. Neil Patel has a great platform called answerthepublic.com, and you can use it for free, or you can get their bigger packages with it and things like that. And I'm not affiliated with Neil Patel at all, but he's a great marketing mind. But
Yeah, I think most people would know him by now.
yeah,
I mean, he's got a huge YouTube following and
yeah,
great video content.
yep. So you could just go to
Yep.
answerthepublic.com, put in your business like main services, and it'll give you, the top, I think it's the top 80 questions asked about that service. So it could be like, how much does it cost?
Say that website again, because I want to make sure
Oh,
we
sure.
get it in the show notes.
Answerthepublic.com.
Gotcha.
So that's
Cool.
I mean, and again, ChatGPT is a great resource for things like that. Like, hey, what are the top 20 questions people would ask about an animal tech injury case, or would ask about, like with my naturopathic doctors. ChatGPT is great for giving you like the main idea, but it's also funny. This is also where we see some of the limitations. So I'm not a big fan of the medical system. Being a veteran, I've dealt with the VA medical system, what government healthcare does look like, and also having, a kid and family, and we were just in the ER the other day, and it just blows my mind how inefficient everything is with it. But the other
Right.
thing that you have to like realize with like an AI program is, because I deal with so many naturopathic, holistic, homeopathic, osteopathic doctors, and I don't deal with like the
Hmm.
mainstream medical system. When I'm asking it for ideas on content of like, what's a natural way to heal this ailment, uh, it doesn't generally give you very good information back, because it is biased by the institutions that are out there that have a
Hmm.
massive amount of information that's going to, funnel someone towards a pharmaceutical drug, or funnel someone towards see your
Yeah.
doctor. It doesn't want to tell
Interesting.
you, hey,
It's
go eat rhubarb. It
yeah.
wants to tell you, go to the doctor and get this prescription. So you have to, certainly find different ways to use it. But again, once you kind
Yeah.
of train it
There's
up.
still that human filter to it. Like I'm saying, again, it's a tool.
Mhm.
It's a great tool. Your car is going to get you from X to Y, A to B, whatever, Y to Z. But wherever you're going, you get the idea. But you also have to, there's, unless you're using a self-driving car, but even in that, you have to give it the right data points. You don't just say, get me somewhere, and it gets you there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So there's always going to be, I feel like, at least as long as humans are still around, and I hope that's certainly a very long period of time. I'm thinking of Terminator here, Skynet and everything. But as long as we're around, I feel like it's going to be it's going to be a relationship between human and AI, and good info in, good info out. I mean, that's as basic as it gets. But yeah, I've noticed the same thing a lot when I'm using with Monica. I'm just like, it's still not quite getting it, where it's like, all right, let me just do it myself. Boom. But the fact is, I now did it in 2.5 minutes instead of 32 minutes, right? And so that's what I want people to realize is it perfect right now? No, but holy smokes, like it's just like, again, that car analogy. Sometimes there's traffic. You might have to take a detour because there's a bad road or a bridge is out or something. Like, it's not always perfect when you're driving, but it's certainly, you're going to be happier to get to work in your vehicle than probably by foot, right? So just use the tools that are there. So I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna throw a little softball over to you
All right.
right now. I know you're building out some courses right now,
Mhm.
right? And some of that is on the AI space. So share with us what that looks like, kind of what we can expect, and why you felt the need to do that.
Yeah, well, it was truly sitting down and looking at our most successful clients. We've worked with dozens and dozens of law firms and medical professionals, and if I sat there and I took, say, like the top 10, 15 of them, and I said, like, what is the commonality with all these people that we've been able to see this massive growth? And I even talked to a few of my clients, and I said, like, hey, so you got better results than this guy and this guy. What do you think it was? And it kind of always came around to the same thing, which was someone in house who gets it. That's what we like to say. He's like, oh,
Right.
okay, she gets it. He gets it. And we very affectionately, we call those people Wilmas, because our very first client, when I started this company, was a law firm, and he had an office manager named Wilma. And it's one thing when you're dealing with busy professionals, and I'm asking him, hey, man, can you send me photos? Hey, man, can you approve this blog piece? Hey, man, can you take a look at the social content? Is it what you want? It's like talking to a wall, right? Because this guy, he's doing multi-million-dollar cases. He doesn't want to sit there and look through social media content. Um, but once I was like, you know what, and I there's kind of a test initially, and I was like, you know what, attorney, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I need someone in your place that I can at least bounce this information off, and I can tell them, hey, this is important. This actually needs to get read by the attorney, or hey, this is it's just some content for the website. It's not like this guy's got to read through the
Right.
whole thing and make sure everything's
Yeah.
punctuated properly, right? Like I
Yeah.
just need a quick green
The
light.
right chain of commands
Yeah,
is set in place.
and
Yeah.
so that was the big commonality, is that all of our best clients had a Wilma. They had somebody that was able to, understand conceptually what we're doing on the online presence side. Like, I don't even like saying digital marketing, because what we do is
Yeah.
really a lot more. It's, manage your reputation, your business listings, your website, your socials, like even email, and now institute or bringing in AI and all of the different capabilities that we
Right.
have with that.
More of overall brand.
Yeah, it's
You're basically taking care of their
yeah,
brand. You're
we
like
manage literally everything online for our clients. So I mean, that's even designing a business card or a new letterhead, or display ads, all sorts of stuff. So um, with that being this commonality, I was like, what if instead of instead of these attorneys and these doctors always having to like look for a third party source for their marketing, because they know they need it. They know it's costly, but it's this massive investment. 10% of your revenue shows go to your marketing. So for a law firm, we're talking about maybe 100, $200,000 a year, right? Real quickly written right into one part of the company. That's the only way that you're going to grow, because there's one of my attorneys does over $100,000 in paid ads every month, and it's worth it for him, because all it takes is 5, 6 good cases. That's certainly more than paid for. But understanding that this investment is going to go out there to, and I don't like shitting on the competition, but there's a lot of really
right.
really poor companies out there in the legal space specifically. I won't name names, but there's like 3 big guys. Nobody has anything good to say about them, and
Hmm.
they're so kind of stuck in the past with their thought process around things, and everything's proprietary technology. So like this one company, they build your website, but they build it on their backbone, and it's hard coded. So even if you wanted to leave them, you don't own your website, you don't own your digital assets, you don't even own the social media content that they put out for you. So if you
Yeah.
leave,
They basically trap you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I operate my company in the complete opposite direction. Like, we're honorable marketing, right? So from day one, Like you have no contracts with us. Everything is month to month. We gotta earn that bread on that table. Another big thing is everything we do, you own. We don't hold anything back, whether it's designing graphics or a piece of content. That's yours. It's your business, not mine, right? Like, what am I going to do with it if you
Hmm.
leave? Like, nothing.
Right.
Um, but now that we have AI, I wanted to really start educating some of these office managers, some of our Wilmas on, hey, here's this amazing tool that not only does it help your marketing, but it can also work in your business operations. Ask the AI, hey, write me a 20-step intake checklist for a law firm, and boom, you got this. Okay, great. Now you're handing that to your receptionist, and you clean it up, obviously, and things like that. But boom, now operationally, we just improved, right? Because now we have something that we can go off of. It's not just, all right, take it and hopefully write down the phone number, and
Hmm.
hopefully the attorney gets back to you, and hopefully, if you have a system in place, like I've had a lot of law firms where I help them kind of with their intake process, because one of the biggest things I hear all the time is like, yeah, we're getting phone calls, but it seems like they're just never closing with us. And I'm like, well, what's the follow up look like? And they're like, well, we put it on into a spreadsheet. I'm like, great. Like, what notifications are you getting from that spreadsheet? Like, oh, well, we're not getting
Yeah.
notifications. I'm like, who's
Yeah.
checking it every day? Are you putting dates on it? Like, we're um, and so like once you start digging into some of those questions, they're like, oh, okay, so maybe if we followed up better, those 20 calls that we're signing one client could turn into 20 calls where we're signing 5 clients, if we're
Hmm.
staying active on it. And there's really great programs out there as far as like automated texting and appointment setters and things like that. There's so many awesome tools out there that all of the businesses that I've kind of rolled in and I've implemented some of these things for. I mean, one of my law firms, he's been with me he's about to have his 4-year anniversary. But when he came to me, he had a doo-doo website. It was him and one other attorney and an
Right.
office manager, and they were kind of just starting. 4 years now. He's now, I think he's about to break 200 million in case results. Um, that's those are the small ones, and then he also has a $400 million case that he had against the University of Michigan. He has a whole bunch of different 30, 40, $50 million cases that he's had against the Department of Corrections up in Michigan. And now he's got 9 other attorneys, himself, a brand new office building, all of this really just incredible growth. He's gone through 3 or 4 different office managers as he's been growing here. And but he was one of the people that I asked. I'm like, all right, man, like you're my golden calf. You're my lighthouse. When I show people kind of what we do, you're the example I use most often. What would you attribute most of this to? And his thing with me was like, dude, I've never once talked to you where you didn't give me an idea for something cool or something new or something to differentiate us in some way. And he goes, and like, I don't want to say everything has worked, but enough of it has worked where I have just kind of focused on growing. I know that if I'm giving you, this amount of money, I can expect this much back. And kind of like a reliable ROI. I could project my growth out. I could, and so he just felt by having somebody that he knew was, getting him reviews, answering every review, staying on top of everything, constantly putting content on his website so he ranks well. He kind of just felt like, okay, I can let my foot off the gas here, let Paul's team
Hmm.
kind of run with it, and I could focus on building my business. He said that was why we grew. He goes, it wasn't anything
There's
that
your
you,
value prop right
yeah.
there.
He said he goes that it wasn't anything like in
Yeah.
particular that you did. It was that I knew I had a team. What I felt like was these people that actually cared about my success as much as their own success, and I didn't have to
Hmm.
worry about this big aspect of my business. And I was able to worry about hiring good people and training people
Yeah.
and putting systems into place. And and that's one of those things that like some of those big marketing companies, like you can't even get an account manager on the phone, and you got to be a squeaky wheel.
Hmm.
Otherwise, like you're getting
Yeah.
like the,
It's on
yeah,
autopilot.
you're getting that kind of like,
That actually rose.
I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say you're getting that kind of like good enough service. Like, oh,
Right.
they're not calling us, which means it's not a problem. Whereas like my people, I require them to call every client every month just to check in, like, hey, how's business? Hey, we're doing this. We put this up on the site.
Exactly.
That
Right. New
relationship.
idea, something,
Yeah.
a refresh. Yeah. Just gives them an opportunity to say, we're thinking about doing this. And it's something that, you can implement that wouldn't have come across your desk if you didn't kind of poke them. It's not like you're bugging them or you're not trying to cross sell them every time you talk to them, but you're just taking care of them.
Hmm.
Like, you would your loved ones. You check in on your loved ones. Yeah. Well, why wouldn't you check in on your clients? I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of your family,
And it always makes me laugh too,
you
because
know?
I've quite a few. I mean, I'm a good, well, try to be a good Christian guy. A lot of my clients are
Yeah.
Christians. Like, we've prayed before and after meetings. Like, when you get to know
Yeah. I've
somebody
done the
like
same.
on that level, it's pretty crazy. But it
Right.
also blows my mind too when some of these people call me and they're like, "Hey, I'm so sorry to interrupt you." I'm like, what are you interrupting? Like, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Like, never feel sorry for
Yeah.
interrupting me. If you have an idea, a thought, anything, text me, call me. Like, I will pick up for any client.
It's usually
Uh,
that they're excited. They got something they want to share with
yeah,
you. They're
yeah.
just jumping right in.
Please, shoot me an email. Like, I'm pretty good. That's the main function of my executive assistant, is to keep my email clean. And every time I get an
Yeah.
email from any client email, like, it shows up with a big green label on it. And so, when I first get in, I can just look for the green labels and boom, boom, boom. I'm talking about systems, right? Like, I want to make
Yeah.
sure, everything that maybe is a proposal out, that comes up with the blue label on it. Everything that's a client comes up with the green label on it, because I just want to make sure that my priorities are in the right place. Which,
Hmm.
and, again, I don't like crapping on the competition, but I don't think that they do that. I don't think that they, really put that level of
Well,
care into it.
I'm going to say this too is, Paul, I know, we've communicated mostly through email and a little bit of text as well, setting this up. And like, I think you and I are very similar where we just take care of email, and you don't want it to run your day, but you also have to set up a system where, like, every couple hours you should really be checking your email, because otherwise you can miss something super important that could be a big business deal. It could be a meeting that changes the time, and if you don't check your email, you miss it. Now you're not showing up to the new time, or you don't realize that your appointment was canceled. You just wasted a half hour thinking you're going to sit with someone. Now you don't.
Mhm.
Whatever. Like, you and I are very much on top of our schedule and our email, and we either have a person that's monitoring it, and or a lot of times it's myself. I just, you know that's why you and I are really good with email follow-up,
Yeah, well,
because we care about making sure we're getting back to people in a timely manner.
very
And
important.
it gets me to my next question: personalization, right? So, like, as customer behavior continues to evolve, I want you to share what you feel the role of personalization. We're talking about AI, and we kind of think that that means we're losing personalization. But I want to say, what role does personalization play into the success of marketing? It doesn't have to be small businesses, but marketing in 2024.
Yeah, I would say, well, there's a few different ways you go with it. One, people buy from people they like, right? And so when you're personalizing your content and you're putting it out there, so
Yeah,
say, I actually just put up a post about the Buffalo Bills the other day, and I was talking about, we fired Ken Dorsey, and I was like, relating that situation around what it's like when you're working with some of these like big marketing companies that, maybe like your confidence isn't there in them anymore, right? Maybe you're just not seeing
yeah,
the results that you were hoping to see. Sometimes it's worth, putting a little an aggressive spin on something. Take a risk, move on from something, and see
yeah,
what else is out there. Just like the Bills did, and bringing Brady in, and that we win 32-6. But now, people that are Buffalo Bills fans, obviously they know, A, I'm a Bills fan. B, I'm a risk taker. I'm personalizing my content to a particular group of people. Most law firms tend to be kind of risk takers. Um, and so by talking about things that I like, and incorporating it into my business, and finding ways to make it relatable to people, I'm without
relatable, and they can still learn. The lesson is still taught. It's just in a more interesting, not flat manner,
and well,
more
it's,
personal.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
not the personalization as in like, "Hey, Mike, here's a post exactly
right.
for you," but it's
For
like,
you,
"Hey,
yeah,
these are my people. Here's my tribe. Here's the people that I know follow me and I know engage in my content. Um, here's something to chew on for a little bit." Uh,
it goes back to what we were talking about with AI, though, Paul. Like, yes, it's using technology, but it's still delivering a message in a way that's human to the person reading the message, and also making sure, like, um, it's in the tone that you feel your prospects are going to relate with, right? So, like, you're being mindful that, hey, I'm talking about the Bills, it's me. It's showing you in your personal light, but you're also getting their attention in a way that they're going to listen to you, opposed to just scroll another. This is just another talking head.
yeah, yeah, and I probably the most easy personalization aspect of using ChatGPT is, and this again, this is kind of one of those mind blowing things, is when businesses don't answer reviews. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine because one, it's not hard. It's easy. You got a notification that you got the review. Like all you have to do is click a
Right.
button and answer it. Next thing,
Yeah.
take that review, drop it into ChatGPT and say, answer this in an empathetic and compassionate way that shows this client we value them, and if they ever need us again, to let us know. And then paste the review in there. Boom. Now you're not getting. Well, I guess the other pet peeve of mine is the answering a review. Thank you. Thank you for the review. Like, what does that mean? Who cares? Who cares about thanking somebody for a review?
I guess it's better. It's better than not
I don't know if
responding,
it
but
is.
it's
I
still
would almost
kind
rather not respond and
then
and
just
then
say thank you
eventually
and
get
like
back
they
to.
didn't even read it.
Yeah. I mean, it literally,
Yeah.
it's showing somebody like, I truly don't care about
What
my
about
clients.
like if you comment on somebody's, whether it's a podcast or a business or something, on their social media, and then they don't even respond to it, and you're like, do you even have anybody monitoring this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've had that happen to me a couple times where it was a post or something that I was interested in. I commented on it, and like nobody even followed up on the comment. Like,
Yeah, there's only so many. Well, we live in this. First off, I absolutely love the fact that we live in this time. We live in crazy times, right? Like the world is
mhm.
bananas right now. And there's one common theme that I'm seeing more and more and more, which is compassionate care for your community. If if I was, President Paul, Dictator Paul, however I would do it, I'd be a lot more strict.
You're hired, by the
Oh,
way.
I
We'll take you. We'll take you right now in the moment. 5 minutes ago.
think I'd do very well, honestly, as a dictator. But one of the things I would do is really like ratchet down on monopoly laws. There are so many monopolies out there that should not be. There shouldn't be an Amazon. There should be 50 Amazons. Apple technically is a monopoly because they have more than 50% of a major market. So Apple's,
Phone shares.
yeah,
Yeah.
they technically should not be able to operate the way they are. But because of corruption and lobbying and all the money and things like that, what I want to be part of is really helping people be local heroes, being positive impacts on their local communities. And so even while I'm having those initial conversations with people, like helping this AI, understand them, you can even ask AI, "Hey, find me 10 charities in my area that match, uh, match my personality, match statement." Boom, and now you've got an opportunity. Go. Yeah, and yeah, I constantly ask my clients like, "Hey, what positive things did you do for your community this week?" I've gone with an attorney before to. He went to the local police station because he was giving a talk to their after school kids program, and talking to them about following your dreams and how to be a good person, how to constantly be of service, and that's thing. I mean, whether you look at it from a religious standpoint or a community involvement standpoint or just being a good human standpoint or any of those, serving others is always the
hmm
answer. Like you want to be successful in business,
Right.
serve others. You want
Amen. Mic drop
to,
moment.
no, yeah, you want to be anything. There's this amazing. I mean, again, not affiliated with this guy at all, but his name is Myron Golden. He's got a huge YouTube channel, but he talks about he gets into like the biblical side of it a lot, but also it's just when you understand who you are and your core offering, the core value that you are providing your community. And I talk with my lawyers and my doctors a lot about this because when somebody's coming to them, they're not in a good spot, right? Like they just got in a car accident or they're having health issues. Like you better
hmm
be going in with a service mindset. And if you don't have a service mindset, um, honestly, I don't want you as a client. I fired a lawyer about a
Yeah.
month and a half ago because he was an ambulance chasing douchebag, and I was like, my values do not align with what you're trying to do. He's buying a ton of fake reviews, and like he didn't want a particular crappy law school to be mentioned in his attorney's bios, and so he like wanted us to go through the website and remove all that because it's not a great law school, but he
Yeah.
hires like dozens of attorneys from there. Like he was
It's focusing on the wrong
focusing
things
on the
instead
wrong
of
thing.
taking
He
care of.
didn't care about
Yeah.
serving
Yeah.
people. He didn't care about service. He didn't care about
Right.
being a good human. And so I had to, and I was very nice about it. I gave him 60 days. I was like, "Hey man, you're not a fit. Like go find your
I've
thing.
had that happen before too, where either you're working for someone and then renewal comes up and you're just not really as upfront, or you're not putting as much energy into the renewal because you're kind of like, it's just not the right fit anymore. After a few years, they've gone in a different direction and they don't really represent what you want to be putting out into the world. And if you're helping someone build their brand and this person's a jerk, you're actually you're going against your own mission statement then by working with them. So
I literally named my company. Well, I'll tell you why we named it Honorable Marketing.
Honorable Marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were #smart for the first 3 years, and I went to. I have this very tight knit group of friends that I've had since since I was 5 years old, and most since high school. And I asked them, I think vulnerability is huge, like being able to be vulnerable, especially around some people. And I asked them, like, hey guys, give me like the top 5 words that you think of when you hear me or when you hear my name,
Yeah.
Kind of a cool little workshopping, right? Like, and when you have a group of people that you could do that with, it's incredibly impactful.
Basically 5 words that describe the Paul Mackiewicz brand.
Yeah. Like what is the Paul Mackiewicz brand? And I got a lot of like really great stuff. And honestly, I recommend everybody do this with their friends because it's enlightening for one. I got a lot of like adventurous. I got a lot of like risk taker. I got a lot of like go getter. But one of them that came up consistently is you always show up and you're honorable. It's like gonna make me cry. That you're honorable. So I was like, man, like if there's anything that I could like personify myself as, like in the digital sphere where there's just all this noise and all this money grabbing and all this like, what can you do for me? I lived in LA. I had to get the hell out of LA because everything out there was so transactional. It's like, hey, my name's Bob. What can you do for me? Like there was no relationship.
No backstory. Everyone has the story that they're just jaded on meeting new people with interesting stories because there's 10 million of them.
Yeah, that's I live in Greenville, South Carolina now. That's why. Because I wanted a small community. I wanted Greenville honestly feels a lot like Buffalo when it comes to like
with better weather.
Much better weather. A lot more golf courses.
We'll have to come and do a couple in-person interviews. I want to get to one thing, and we're way late to the break, which is fine. But I wanted to actually, why don't we do this? We'll take a quick timeout. We're going to give our sponsors some love. We'll be right back with Paul. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you. And that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight. And Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. All right, we're back in action with Paul Mackiewicz. Remember, you can connect with him on social media. I got his website linked in the show notes as well. And that resource tool he mentioned, go to answerthepublic.com you're interested in that. And that was pertaining to kind of properly utilizing AI in your business. Is that right? Is that one of the
What
resources
what
for
it
that?
does is it takes a topic and it gives you the most often asked questions on Google about that topic.
Okay. So that's kind of your springboard. And then you as a company should be taking that information and implementing it
Yep.
with AI. So that's kind of where we're at. Um, Before the break, I had an idea. We're talking about different ways of building your brand. And I know you've been on a guest on multiple shows, and this is your second time on this show. So I want you to share. My audience knows my views on this. Obviously, Social Chameleon for podcast production agency, but also more of a community tool as we're growing into it for podcasters. But I want you to share your side of it. So what are your thoughts on podcasting and how it helps build a brand?
I uh, I've had a lot of people that have told me very directly that they bought from me because they like me, right? Like there's only so many things you could do to differentiate yourselves. When I was heavy in sales, I had this girl. We were very competitive. We're very good friends still to this day, but she would always kind of laugh at me because as I'm on the call, I'm asking about their family. I'm asking about, how they feel about, like, I know a lot about sports. So, right. Like you talk about the Chargers, I've talked to some from LA. I'd be like, oh, you Chargers guy or you Rams guy, and I can talk about that. Like when you have a lot of things that you know a little bit about, it makes it so that you can have a real conversation and build relationship around people and ask a lot of questions and things like that. And so what I found on the podcasting side is, and one reason I greatly appreciate you and you having me back on the show again is when I get to talk to people and just kind of let them know who I am, how I operate, what my values are, what my mission is, what I see as success. It tends to resonate, and there's not very many ways that you could do that. It's hard to do in a minute and a half Instagram. It's hard to do in a blog post, hoping that someone's going to read it all. It's hard to do in a paid ad, but on a podcast, and people can listen to me speak. And I mean, I've done all sorts of podcasts, not just marketing. Even though I love marketing,
Yeah.
I've been waist deep in it for 15 years now. I'm getting to the point where I'm a decent thought leader in the space. But
Yeah.
I mean, I've done podcasts about Marvel movies. I've done podcasts about ancient aliens. I've done podcasts about religion and history. Um, I like I like breaking my brain, and I think that
Hmm.
that is something that probably a lot of people also do. They really like having themselves stretch because you can't grow unless you break some muscles. I mean, that's the whole idea of going to the gym,
Yeah, you
right?
got to have some new information and interesting things in there. Otherwise, you just turn into basically we're the AI.
Yeah,
Like you have to have some things of interest that you keep thinking about and growing.
yeah,
Um,
and
I agree, man. I love what you're saying there. I think that's 100% right. People get to see you. Now, this is a joke because, guys, if you're listening, you might not know, but Paul does not have any hair. So I was going to say he lets his hair down when he's on a podcast. Um, Sorry. I mean, I didn't really want to go there with the dad joke, but it wrote itself. But it is what it is. You let your hair down when you're on a show. You're just kind of being you. Someone hears you talk about AI today. They're like, this guy actually does know what he's talking about. Let me go check out that website. Click on it in the show notes. Thank you very much. There for them. And then they can be like, I like what this guy does. This is the guy I want to work with. And they're saying guy, but it's really your whole team because they're also a reflection of the Honorable Marketing brand. And everybody that's on your team is a part of that family.
and it's
So
also
yeah, I do.
I do want to be sure that people know this. So not only am I a veteran, but I employ quite a few veterans.
Cool.
I find that
Yeah.
they have the right growth mindset that I look for people, problem solvers, decision makers, action
Mhm.
takers. Like it's kind of a lot of the things. The nails on a chalkboard, like most annoying thing that my guys can say to me, and they all know this is, "Oh, we're waiting on the client." I'm like,
Uh-huh.
there's nothing ever that we are waiting on a client for. Like, you need approval on it,
Yeah.
great, put it up, put it on the website because it's fine. Like, say there's a typo in it, we can correct the typo and fix that, right? Like, social media posts, put it up. Like, it's not like we're jumping on there doing political commentary for some law firm, right? Like, that's
Right.
not the type of post that we're building.
That's going to get
Yeah, we're
backlash. Yeah.
not. There. I would much rather take action and have there be an error than be sitting on our hands. And that is the complete opposite of most marketing companies that tend to be like, well, we got to check with the client, got to check. I'm like, throw it up. Just put it up there. Like, they don't like it, we'll take it
Yeah.
down. Who cares? Like, and I've had to
Right.
tell clients that before. Like, they're like, oh, that post had the wrong color scheme. I'm like, okay. He's like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, I'm just gonna take it down. I'm gonna redo it and have something new up there in 30
Yeah.
seconds. Chill out, dude. Like, everything's
Right.
cool. Everything's cool, man. Like, and you kind of,
Yeah.
in this industry, especially like I work with attorneys. There's a lot of really crummy attorneys out there as far as like personalities. And there's
Personalities or lack
or
of.
lack of. And there's a lot of ones that are just absolutely incredible human beings that have no idea how to show the world that they're incredible human beings. And those are the people I look for.
Yeah.
It's why like my major like sales tactic, we'll say, is I look at somebody's online presence and I make them a custom 4 or 5 minute video where I take time out of my day and I say, hey, if you did this on your Google business listing, utilize these product cards and put your different practice areas. Because if you think about how people make a buying decision, most of them never get past your Google business listing. Your Google business listing
Right.
could have 10,000 views in a month and your website only have 2,000 views. So wouldn't you want the different practice areas that you have to be seen by 10,000 people as opposed to 2,000? So thinking about how people make buying decisions and the access of information, like load up those business listings with as much information and as much unique value as you can. Tell them about the fact that you're a military veteran and a lawyer. People like that stuff. Tell them that now you're a naturopathic doctor, but you were an MD for 15 years before it. And so you have
Yeah.
both
So I
sides
got
of
a
that,
different
right?
background.
Show
Yeah.
them those, like show them
Yeah.
those
That's a
differentiating
whole
factors. And
Mhm.
again, like with taking action, if I'm doing an onboarding with somebody and I'm interviewing them basically for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and I'm recording that thing, and then I'm sending it over to my team and I'm saying, each of you watch this so that you understand who this person is and the unique value about them and what makes them special. How much easier is it to decide on what type of content we're going to put together for them? We just got just like a podcast, right? It's basically a podcast interview that I'm giving to my team, and they're being able to like, oh, okay, so she likes this. I ask them weird questions too, like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite cartoon? If you weren't a doctor, what would you be? If and
Mhm.
stretch them a little bit, but it allows us to see their personality, and now it's a lot easier to reflect them online. And by having my entire team watch a 40-minute interview of a client, again, I don't think that there's a whole lot of other marketing companies that do things the way that we do it.
That's
But
brilliant.
that's, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you want to talk about like trying to be honorable, trying to portray these people as best as we can in a light that's as accurate as we possibly can. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Um,
You gotta break that shield of a lot of times, they're not going to show their personality right away, especially with the company that they're working with. It's just like, I want to pay you X and you get me Y in ROI marketing
mhm.
return. And it's like, well, until you really crack through that, then that personality comes out and they're sharing everything about them and, where they like to go on vacation and, the silly side of life, or you're talking about cartoon characters,
Mhm.
whatever it is, to get them kind of loosened up a little bit. So now you have a personality that you can turn into their brand, because that's really when someone's sitting with an attorney or a doctor, you know, you want that, whatever, you know, their personality looks like. As you said, sometimes it's not great, but if you have someone you're working with that does have a great personality, you want that to shine through in the branding,
Mhm.
right? So I want us to bring this home, put a giant, right now it is pre-Christmas when we're recording this. We got Thanksgiving in a couple days. So happy Thanksgiving, to you and your family and everything. I know that's going to be a little bit of a dated statement when someone hears this, but it doesn't matter. Grateful for you 365 days out of the year, brother. So what I'd love you to do is put a big Christmas wrapping paper and a big bow on this episode and share the best advice, no pressure, best advice that you can give to a young entrepreneur right now. And that doesn't mean young in age, but someone who's really breaking out of their box and going in. And you said this word a couple of times. Part of your personality is that you're a risk taker. There's a lot of risk takers tuning in saying, Paul, bro, give me the best advice. What do I need to attack first to really build my business?
Um, I'm going to throw a curveball back at you. The thing that I would tell
Yeah.
any new entrepreneur or even somebody that's thinking about getting into entrepreneurship, or they've got an idea and they don't know what to do with it, the biggest thing I would tell them is like, you're going to be okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
so often, I mean, I had a panic attack because I didn't know if I was going to be okay, right? I didn't know if I was going to be able to provide. I didn't know if things would work out. But what I
And how did you get through that
uh
at the time?
at that time was a lot of leaning on my friends, a lot of leaning on my wife. Well, now wife, she was fiance at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of that was leaning on God. I mean, I I have this image of God that as a society, as an individual, we're on a path, right? Like the analogy I like to use is you're getting on a ship in New York, you're going to London, right? Like God's already decided that you're going to London. God's already decided that humanity is going to do
Mm-hmm.
whatever it's going to do. The difference is, and free will is on that trip from New York to London, am I going to sit in the buffet and shove my face? Am I going to sit here and scroll through TikTok the whole time? What am I going to do while I'm on this voyage? Or am I going to have conversations with people? Am I going to have wonderful dinners and build relationships? Am I going to go to the gym? Am I going to read a book? Am I like, what person will I be when I get there? Because
Awesome.
I can't control where I'm going,
Everybody's
right?
getting there on the boat, but like,
And
what are you going to do with your time? And I think that's a really amazing, I'm going to call it a mic drop moment on the show, because I think a lot of times people get so caught up in what they're doing and how they have to do it and why they're doing it and taking care of things. And it's all necessary. It's the business side of it. It's get home to the family. It's whatever it might be. We kind of forget that we're given this opportunity on this planet to be great. And I always say be great and be grateful. What I mean by be great is that opportunity. If you're literally, going, if there's 100 people all going to London, that was your example, right? You can have 100 different experiences on that ship, right? And so, one person might end up making 5 amazing friends and connections. Some of the business comes out of that. One person's just going to be in their computer, watching Netflix all day long, doesn't talk to anybody unless they're spoken to or something. And at the end of it, like what value you got out of it, and not only what you got out of it, because that's kind of a taking mentality. What value did you give to the other 99 people on the ship? And I think that's really, when I think about God and our opportunity between when we're born and we don't know our end date, is like you're just saying. I want to speak for you here, but elaborate on it too. Is what we can do with that amount of time, the impact we can make.
yeah, and I think a lot of that comes down to service and action. If you don't know what to do, do something, right? Like if
Yeah.
if you're
It'll shape up. Like you just get started, like you
if you're
said,
lost, find
and
somebody
you
to
can.
help. Because I guarantee
Mhm.
if you help somebody, even if you're doing it for say selfish reasons, say you're like, okay, well, I heard this guy in a podcast told me if I help somebody, I'll feel better. Like even if that's your reason, right? You will still feel better if you go and help somebody. I mean, I keep singles and fives in my wallet all the time just in case a homeless person asks me for money. I don't care
Mhm.
what he does with it, but they needed help at that
Yeah,
time, and I had the resources, so I'm going to help them. You
you're
you
gonna do it.
have the
Yeah.
resources, and
Yes.
everything will always be fine. So if you're starting a company and you've got this great idea for a product or a service, as long as you're keeping in the forefront of your mind, like how can I serve these people? How can I make other people's lives better? You'll be fine. And the stress will come and it will go. Everything ebbs and flows. There's the reason that literally everything in creation, from atoms to ocean tides to wind currents to how planets move in a solar system, everything ebbs and flows. And sometimes you feel like you're really in the shit. But trust me, if you just keep taking action and you keep serving people, you get to the other side and then things are better. And then, it's kind of like
Yeah.
that chart where it goes up a little, plateaus, goes up a little, plateaus. Like that's what life
It's like a
is.
thermostat. It will reset. If you start to get a little cold, it's gonna warm up. If you're really hot, eventually you're gonna cool
Yeah, it
down.
gets
You
cold
don't
when you're really
stay.
hot.
You're not in the zone 100% of the
Mhm.
time, right? So, um, that's really really sound advice, and I can tell you've been doing this for a while because you're knowledgeable, but also you got a great combination. Honorable is definitely a word I would use to describe you as well. But the combination I love about you, Paul, is that you have the business tech side of it, the AI side of it, but with a total heart, human pulse, heartbeat behind your clients, your team. Every time I talk to you, you talk about your team.
Mhm.
Um, whether it's on a podcast or just catching up, you always highlight your team, your family. You mentioned your wife and your family, like I can tell that it's not something you're even thinking about. It's just who you are as a person. And that's why I love hanging out with you, man.
Appreciate
So
it, man.
even if we're both Buffalo guys, but we're across the country, we can get together, we can celebrate. I just want to say thank you for your time today, brother. And it's been wonderful having you back on the show. Any last thoughts?
No, just last thing I want to say is that I appreciate you, man. That's you.
Thanks,
You
man.
have such a cool niche, such a cool company that you're building, and I can tell that you've got a lot of really awesome things going on right now, and your growth is going to be e- even more than what we've seen over here because podcasting.
The technology I need is to clone myself. So I
Hey
can
man, if you
be
need some virtual
handling a lot of
assistants,
the.
you let me know. I got
Yeah.
some really amazing resources as far as VAs. And I mean that's another company I'll plug here real quick. And name of the company is iWorker.
Yeah, do it.
And what they do is they
Mhm.
find highly educated women in third world countries that are looking for employment opportunities with American companies. And granted, everything is
Mhm.
digital, of course, or virtual.
Sure.
But I've hired.
But for what you might need, that could be the right fit.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
hired I think 4, maybe 5 different women now. I've got 2 production assistants and my executive assistant are all in Kenya. I've got a graphic designer in Venezuela. I've got a web developer in Indonesia. So not only do I, try to work with military veterans here, but I'm also trying to, positively impact the world by helping out people in other countries too that have the skills, have the knowledge, just don't have the opportunity. And what more can we do, right?
That's awesome, man. So good. Such a great episode with a good mix of information that people can really take. And the most important thing for me to do a podcast is not just to speak and have a bunch of words be thrown out into the universe, but it's about the applicable things that we talked about. And I think there's a lot of things that people can take and say, if I apply this to my business or myself, we talked a little bit about personal side, business side today. I feel we'll have people better than they found us, right? So we're making some impact, and that's why I'm doing the show, brother. So having people like you on, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to say it one more time. Go Bills. Happy holidays, everybody, if you're listening to this during that time. And, we don't only share gratitude Thanksgiving week. That's a 365. So I like to end every episode with 2 things. Be great and be grateful. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, man.
Keep